If you've ever driven Interstate 20 very far west of Fort Worth, you probably recognize this, the large smokestack towering above the tiny town of Thurber. It doesn't look like much now, but once upon a time this little town was booming. We're going there to learn all about it and to see what's left of Thurber, Texas.
Texas is full of lost history, from lost cemeteries to abandoned buildings, from the infamous to the obscure. Hitch a ride and travel across the Lone Star State, looking for hints of Texas' colorful past, our lost history. This is Expedition Texas, and we're gonna find it.
Expedition Texas, presented by JMT Music Entertainment. See your favorite artists live in concert. Find shows near you on Facebook at JMT Music Entertainment. Thurber, Texas may look mostly abandoned these days, but its importance covered several areas. For example, Thurber was once one of the most important mine sites in Texas. For 30 years, 3,000 tons of coal were produced daily. This coal provided fuel mainly for the Texas and Pacific Railroad, but a dozen other railroad lines used Thurber coal. By ensuring plentiful coal supply, Thurber helped railroads open up the Great Southwest. Thurber had the best brick equipment west of the Mississippi. Manufactured from the area's rich deposits of shale clay, Thurber brick paved hundreds of miles of Texas highways and streets. For example, Congress Avenue in Austin, the Galveston Seawall, the Bankhead Highway, and the stockyards in Fort Worth, just to name a few. Thurber was headquarters of the Texas and Pacific Coal Company, which, under the leadership and persistence of W.K. Gordon, brought in the McCluskey Discovery Well at Ranger, which is 16 miles to the west. Thurber was the first totally electrified city in the United States. A power plant was erected in 1895, as well as an ice plant with a 17-ton capacity, the largest ice plant in the Southwest. By 1915, each home also had natural gas for heat. Labor unions are also important in Thurber's history. Thurber became the only totally unionized town in the world and had two UMW locals, the English local and the Italian local. And Thurber was diverse. Hundreds of European immigrants representing 18 ethnic groups began working as coal miners and bricklayers. The priest at the Catholic Church heard confessions in 6 languages. Thurber was a melting pot for Eastern European immigrants, providing an interesting and colorful cultural mix. So what happened to this once great city? Well, we're going to get to that, but just so happens our guides Janice Mills and Mariela Castillo own the New York Hill restaurant in Thurber, so we decided to have a little lunch first. So tell me about this place.
Well, it was built in 1989. It was a big step building it up on the hill when it's so far off the interstate.
I might point out, in a ghost town.
And in a ghost town, that's true.
Janice and Les actually built it, and my father-in-law Randy now is the owner, and my fiance Ryan is also working here. So on Sundays we have 3 generations here.
It's a family affair.
Family affair.
So Janice, I understand you're going to be able to show us around some of what's left of the once boomtown of Thurber.
Yes, be glad to.
Are you coming along?
Sure.
All right, cool. Yeah. After a great lunch at the New York Hill restaurant, we took some time to admire some artifacts from Thurber's history. Dozens of items filled a case in the back of the restaurant. Definitely worth checking out when you're there.
Confessional over there when it was used as a Catholic church.
Yes. So what do they use it for now?
Storage.
Storage. Okay. We're in Thurber, Texas, a town that went from a boom town to practically a ghost town. Few buildings remain from the town's heyday, but we're going to start off in one of the oldest, the Old Catholic Church.
We're going into St. Barbara's Church. It was built in 1892.
Wow.
It's no longer used as a Catholic church, but non-denominational.
Oh, wow, this is cool. What is this?
That's the confessional over there when it was used as a Catholic church.
Yes. So what do they use it for now?
Storage.
Storage. Okay. Well, at least you confess to it.
It's not used as a church often.
Okay.
We have had a few Latin masses in the church, but mostly it's used for weddings. The original organ is upstairs.
Really?
That was the choir loft, and so that's where the music came from.
Can we get upstairs to see that organ? So this is the original organ, huh?
Yes, it is. And then if you'll look behind you, there's the rope that you can pull to ring the bell, and that's what brought people to church back in Thurber's days.
Okay, here we go. It's time to come to church.
You'll notice that indention there, that is, was built especially to hold the caskets. When Thurber was a town, the men didn't often have homes. They lived in group homes. And so they built that so that somebody could sit with the casket where they couldn't do it in private homes. So next we'll go over to the little green house, as we call it. This was typically how the houses looked. The family would live in 2 rooms, and they would have boarders that would room in as many beds as they could get in the 3rd room. This is the house that we brought back and tried to restore it as close to as we could as to the way they would have done it in Thurber days. The outside of the house would be painted, but the inside was up to the people that lived in it to put wallpaper up. They put materials down beneath the wallpaper to shut out the wind and the rain and the weather.
So the houses were rented out?
And the company owned everything.
Really?
They owned
the mining company?
Yes.
Okay.
Texas Pacific Coal and Oil Company owned every building, every job position. It was totally controlled and owned by the
Thurber
company.
was a company town.
You remember the Tennessee Ernie song?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the way Thurber was. The only thing is the difference, he made this sound bad, and the close to 30 years we've been here, I've never heard a bad memory from Thurber because they did everything they could to make the people happy.
Well, this is cool. Have the wood burning stove.
Yes. This was a unique thing that Thurber did. See the way they've got it built in, it was able to source the rest of the house with
Really?
heat.
Oh, so they ran that pipe through the house?
It goes up, this chimney being attached to these two,
Yeah.
was able to warm both rooms.
Cool.
This doesn't show up, but it was, that was the benefit of this.
Well, that's neat.
And
so how many people would be normally coming together and eating in one of these kitchens?
well, just the family.
Okay.
Because the people that they had boarding would eat out or have sack lunches or whatever.
Okay.
And they would eat in shifts if the lady of the house fed them.
Were the boarders also employees?
Oh yes,
Okay.
they worked in the coal mines, and she would wash their clothes,
Yeah.
fix their lunches for them to take to the coal mines, do everything that a wife would do for a family.
Yeah.
But she was paid to do it. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
Here's the bandstand. It was very prominent and a place of interest where they did musicals, all the important events downtown.
From boomtown to ghost town, we're in Thurber, Texas, exploring remnants of the old town. The mine, power plant, and ice plant are all gone, as are most of the town's businesses. What does remain are a few hints of the town's bustling past.
When Thurber was a town, it was probably the first town in the United States that had electricity to all of its homes at one point. This is the original caboose that went on the train that pulled the workers out to the mines every day.
Really?
There was a sign on the back of it. It was written in English and in Italian that said that for them to keep their hands in the inside, and they would be fined for sticking their hands out the windows.
Really? How much did this cost me?
$2.
$2?
Yes, that was a big fine. Get out. All right, here's the bandstand. It was very prominent and a place of interest where they had musicals, all the important events downtown evolved around this, the parades and all. Originally it was 10 foot off of the ground.
Wow, you get a crick in your neck watching the band.
Yeah, but we felt like we wanted people to be able to use it without being dangerous.
And of course, the most prominent feature in Thurber, the structure that causes people to pull off the interstate and take a look, is the 1908 smokestack.
This is the smokestack where they made electricity to power the downtown section, the ice plant and the office buildings downtown, the hardware store, and the different downtown buildings.
And this somehow survived everything else being torn down.
Yeah, there was 3 smokestacks.
Really?
At least 3 that I know of, yeah. And there it's in terrible disrepair. But
so all the coal is still under the ground somewhere, huh?
Still billions of tons of coal, yes.
Really? Ah, it's part of a burnt side of a brick. I thought it might have been coal. Hey, there's another big building back here in the woods. Oh, geez. Okay, that gave me a little scare.
Oh.
Yeah, that kind of, I almost jumped back a little bit when I stepped on that. No rattle though, wouldn't have been a rattlesnake. So what is this building?
I believe that is where they treated the water that went to all of the houses. I know they had an ice plant and they treated their own water that came from Big Little Lake.
We've been to ghost towns before, but for years I've been receiving emails from viewers, you, telling me about a place along I-20 called Thurber. We've probably driven right by it 100 times on the show, you know, traveling to an expedition, but never had the chance to stop and check it out. So today, what we're doing, we're checking things out and seeing if it'll be possibly a good expedition. And then once you see it, maybe you can judge for yourself whether or not it'd be something you want to see a story on. Looks like the right place. Oh yeah. There's a smokestack. In Thurber, there's an old smokestack reaching to the sky with the date 1908. Well, I know there's a smokestack, but I don't know what in the way of other buildings. Look at that. On top of the smokestack is a ladder. Somebody would climb up the outside of that thing. Wow. There are foundations all over the place. It's like you're in a town that was literally torn down. Lots of pads and foundations of things that used to be here. It looks like there used to be buildings all out through this area. We're We're in Thurber, Texas, exploring what remains of the town. Most of the clues about Thurber's past, though, can only be found in the Thurber Cemetery. But to find that cemetery, you have to know where to look.
The first person buried here was in 1890. The cemetery is actually in two counties. About across the middle is Erath County this direction and Polipina County from the other direction. It was divided into sections. Thurber, they had the Protestant, the Catholic, the Black.
What are the little white crosses that are dotted out across here?
These are marking unmarked graves. When people left, they thought they'd be able to come back and mark them, but they weren't able to. And so these marked the over 200 graves that are grave sites that are here. They're able to come back and they are able to tell you whether it was a male or a female and whether it was an adult or a child.
So I noticed that there are little fences around some of these graves, but like that one over there, what is that around that little grave?
That is a child's baby bed, a wrought iron baby bed. It was a child buried there and they put her crib around her. So if you'll look, there's different types of graves, but you can see the one that's got the wooden cross on it with the white sign, and that was a gentleman that had pre-dug his own grave, put clothes in the casket. So he said when he got to heaven he wanted to have good clothes on. Okay. But he put whiskey bottles in there as he dug his grave. He buried it in the dirt so that when they covered his grave up they would be gentle, because they would be looking for those whiskey bottles.
Really? Now I guess there were whiskey bottles with whiskey in them?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and then we have some brick lined. It depended, I think, on which nationality they were, is how they figured out how they wanted to mark their graves.
I see. Yeah, because it's a variety out here.
Mm-hmm.
Thurber, Texas hasn't completely disappeared. Thanks to interest in the few remaining structures in the town, folks continue to come here. They do business with the two restaurants in the town and they visit the museum there. Echoes of long ago can barely be heard above the roar of nearby Interstate 20. Or maybe what you're hearing is the rumbling ghosts of the old mine, or the locomotives, or the power plant. Either way, Thurber, Texas is worth pulling off the interstate. Down the road, there's another lost legend waiting to be discovered. More lost Texas history. And on Expedition Texas, we're going to find it.